KAMR Local 4 News, your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today.
It is a project that's been in the works for years. Now, the city of Amarillo officially opening the doors to their new city hall. And the new city hall could be home to a new Ten Commandments monument. More about the monument they plan to model it after and the case law behind it. Last week was the grand opening for Amarillo's new city hall. The project cost a little under $35 million and has been in the works for years. Politics Today's Maya Clark has more on the building's accessibility and longevity.
623 South Johnson Street, home of the new City Hall.
Excited about it. We're excited about the design of this, the functionality of it, and what the public is going to be able to enjoy with this new facility. The
140,000 square foot space houses most public needs on the first floor and is more accessible for the community.
We only had one accessible ramp to get into Old City Hall. This building actually has 4 accessible ramps on the exterior of the building. We didn't have but one accessible restroom in Old City Hall, whereas this building has them on every floor in every space.
In addition to the building being more accessible, Hooper shared they have new technology that will help keep the public more informed.
We have built this building where we have streaming capabilities on the first floor. A lot of our public meetings will take place down there as well, aside from council meetings, will take place in the council chamber. And I think that is something that the citizens are going to enjoy as well.
Hooper and Danforth shared the building is designed for expansion, with the thought of being able to serve Amarillo as the city grows.
When we look at this building as far as longevity, we have no concerns or issues there. As far as expandability within this, keep in mind the existing City Hall occupiable space was 65,000 square feet. We are now occupying a little under 80,000 square feet because we expanded the departments in anticipation of growth. But that still leaves me right at 60,000 square feet that I can grow into within this building.
Hooper says eventually the old city hall will be demolished, but that's a while away because several steps have to happen first. He went on to add that once the space is demolished, it'll be a green space park area. As the new city hall becomes the new center for city operations, it could also soon be home to a Ten Commandments monument. On November 12th, City Council discussed a monument to be funded and donated by the current City Council. Politics Today's Devin Singleton tells us more as we look into some of the money spent on the monument so far and if it could potentially face any legal challenges.
So it would be a gift from our council members, so you're still being asked to pay for this. So there is no sales tax dollars, there's no property tax dollars, there's no cost to the city. This is a historical document. This is not just a religious artifact.
In the months leading up to this meeting, the city had already paid nearly $4,500 to the Hyde Kelly LLP firm for legal counsel regarding this monument.
The monument's being donated by private funds. There's money that was expended in order to double check, our legal standing and make sure that by placing that monument that we place it the right way. Mm-hmm. And so once again, I think that was money well spent.
That was news to me. I had missed that in one of the bills. I will tell you that. I'll be perfectly honest. I missed it. I didn't know that was there. And maybe we need to repay that part if it's going to be a total donation.
Ten Commandment displays on government properties across the United States have resulted in lawsuits. Since November, City Council started speaking with attorney Hiram Sasser from First Liberty Institute. The mayor says he's agreed to represent the city on this monument at no charge if it's challenged.
Now, we did get some very good advice from a free lawyer last meeting, And don't get me wrong, I loved it. Anytime I can get free, I'm all in. I'll be the first one at the counter,
We spoke with a staff attorney from Americans United for Separation of Church and State. He handles legal cases regarding church-state separation. He has not been hired by the city on this matter.
One thing that I like to bring up about these religious right law firms, because it sounds like a great deal, right? They say that they'll represent you for free and that it won't cost you anything as long as you follow their advice and stuff. I will point out that in McCreary County, the county also had engaged one of these Christian right law firms. It wasn't First Liberty, but it was Liberty Counsel. And they got the same deal, which is to say that Liberty Counsel represented them all the way to the Supreme Court for free. But what they didn't tell them, and what they never tell them, is that if you get sued and lose in a civil rights case like this, then you have to cover the attorney's fees of the plaintiffs, the person that sued you. And the agreement didn't cover that. So McCreary County ended up being on the hook for several $100,000 of attorney's fees, and Liberty Counsel pieced out once that happened.
If we do get challenged and lose, the city will be liable for the plaintiffs.
Correct, correct.
Who pays that?
We do. The city would pay that. Now, that's some of the legal stuff we're still working on, so that's why nothing's happening at this time. We're waiting for the legal to be sure to tell us what's there, what percentage of liability do we have.
Mayor Stanley says the goal is for this monument to mirror the one at the Texas State Capitol in Austin. That monument was deemed to be constitutional in 2005 by the Supreme Court in the case of Van Orden v. Perry.
A lot of places will commission a monument that looks like this Fraternal Order of Eagles monument. They will try and say that because this one looks like the one that the Supreme Court said was okay in Van Orden, never mind the context around what the actual opinion says. They think that because it looks the same, that it is the same. But that's not what the case says. The case says that monument, it's not that because it's this particular like format of the Ten Commandments or physical like appearance of the Ten Commandments, it's because it was surrounded by all these other non-religious monuments when it was put up and at the time that the lawsuit was brought.
Well, I think that the attorney would disagree with you in the fact that he advised us to match what's in the Capitol. And so it'll be a mirror image, just smaller, scaled down version of what's in Austin.
What's in Austin is a Ten Commandments monument that was put up in 1961. It sits among 22 other secular and historical monuments on Capitol grounds.
Do we have anything like that with our monument?
I think we will. So, nobody has anything scheduled right now. I think that we should look at that and, hopefully we'll be setting a precedent. I'd love it for this council to be able to move for this monument. Maybe the next council would feel like, hey, let's do our part. Let's look at this document. Maybe it's a gift, that they could give, or that any council would feel like, we want to leave our mark here. And what we would leave our mark on is remembering who we are and where we come from.
Why go with the Ten Commandments and not a more secular monument like the Bill of Rights or something like that?
I think that the Ten Commandments is very fitting for the state of Texas because of the state capitol and because of what they've done. And I think because of how black and white it has become, I think it's a strong stand, and I think it's a stand we should want to take.
This monument that you're putting up right now doesn't have any historical context because you're putting it up now. It hasn't been there for 40 years or 50 years or 100 years.
There wasn't even a probable concern from this firm. That anything like this would have any grounds of being removed or challenged.
Ian Smith says that depends.
If it's just the Ten Commandments, then there's plenty of other law to show that that is unconstitutional. You can't just put up the Ten Commandments. There's another case decided on the same day as Van Orden v. Perry. It's called McCreary County versus ACLU out of Kentucky. And there the Supreme Court struck down a Ten Commandments monument. In that case, there were actually like 3 different monuments, because the county kept losing in court. Then the court said, look, we can't ignore the history of this, right? We know what you're trying to do. You want to put up the Ten Commandments and just the Ten Commandments.
The mayor told us parts of Texas law helped clear up those issues.
And I would never tell you that any one particular case decided it for everyone and all, but I can tell you that the updated laws here recognized within the state of Texas have cleared the fact that it's a historic monument.
If he's getting sued under the federal constitution, the federal cases will trump it, trump whatever the state court says. Until the Supreme Court says different, Van Orden and McCreary are still good law and the law of the land.
Councilman Les Simpson gave us contact information for the attorney, Hiram Sasser. We asked him twice for an interview to be a part of this story. he hasn't gotten back to us. He also, you can also rather take a look at all of our full interviews with the mayor and Americans United, along with rulings from the Supreme Court cases over on our website, myhighplains.com. And if we do hear back from the other attorney, we will gladly share that as well. Mayor Cole Stanley giving an update on Councilman Tom Sherlin last week. Sherlin was given medical attention and eventually taken to the hospital 2 weeks ago. The mayor says Sherlin was in a lot of pain over the past few days, but is progressing very well. He expects Councilman to be out of the hospital soon. There is a big boost to help make Transformation Park into Amarillo safer for those who will be calling that their community. Coming up in just a bit, we'll lay out the plans after this. During this week's first city council meeting at the new city hall, the council approved resolution authorizing a $250,000 payment to Transformation Park. That funding will be used to provide security measures at the facility, including cameras, internet connectivity, and other security equipment, along with job creation funding for security guards. Politics Today's Jack Kessler has more on what that means for this project.
Mark Zimmerman, Transformation Park Executive Director, says this was not part of the original project, and that is why they had to come ask.
That's the main part of it, is the camera system. And then the other part is for a metal detector and a bag scanner to come into the site. And then the last part is job creation. So we're going to try to create 2 or 3 security jobs.
Zimmerman says that they will have cameras around the perimeter and security walking the perimeter.
We want to make sure that our residents are safe. We want to make sure that our volunteers are safe and our staff are safe. And so this camera system will be a huge part of that.
Zimmerman adds these cameras will be tied into the Amarillo Regional Crime Center.
We want our APD tied directly in with that so that they can see those cameras, they can see what's going on. If they have an issue, we want their staff over there to be able to exercise all the safety measures that they have.
Zimmerman says the goal with these security measures is less APD calls.
That's our main goal, is to try to head off. That's our last resort, is to call APD, that we try to take care of the issues before it ever gets to that point.
Zimmerman says April 12th is Transformation Park's ribbon cutting. He says then April 16th is the estimated date that they will move in their first cabin community residents. He says they'll begin interviewing them and talking to them this week. Amarillo City Council also approving a name change for Meta Park. It will be changed to John Ward Memorial Park. During his more than 21 years as city manager, Amarillo gained 3 new libraries, a downtown bus terminal, 2 golf courses, police and municipal buildings, 3 new fire stations, the AEDC, and more. Amarillo Parks and Rec hosted a community meeting for which park would be renamed. City Council also had the first reading for an ordinance to give an exemption for ad valorem property taxes to qualifying child care facilities. The first reading passed. Officials say that 53 out of 119 facilities in the city would qualify. It's proposed to have a 100% abatement. A deal that was started by the Amarillo Economic Development Corporation has now been ended by the current AEDC leadership. According to officials, the current AEDC has ended the deal with CVMR. The company planned to build a rare earth mineral refinery on Highway 60 near the airport. Officials say CVMR missed a deadline to start construction by December 31st of 2024, with no permits filed or work begun. AEDC had pledged $20 million for job creation over 10 years and provided land for the facility. The AEDC is working to get the land back after CVMR's extension request was denied in January. The first U.S. death from measles since 2015 happened in West Texas. Coming up, we're going to hear what local health officials are saying. Welcome back, friends. With the Texas Department of State Health Services now reporting 124 cases of measles and 1 death of a school-aged child in the South Plains. Politics Today's Maya Clark has more on how Amarillo health officials are sharing ways to prevent measles and how they are preparing for a potential outbreak.
When it comes to measles, the best way to prevent the highly contagious virus is vaccination.
If someone contracts measles, if those around them are susceptible, they can infect between 9 and 10 individuals. And so that's why that protection, that vaccination is so very important. The MMR vaccine is about 97% effective, and so it's one of the very best vaccines that we have.
Stoughton shared there are currently no measles cases in Potter or Randall counties, but APH is working with local healthcare providers to be prepared.
We're working on things like coordinating testing, making sure that our providers are able to test for the measles, that we have a system in place to get labs to either commercial labs or down to the state lab for testing. We want to make sure that measles vaccinations are available.
Stoughton says for herd immunity to be effective in the community, about 95% of the community has to be vaccinated. Associate Professor of Pediatrics at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, Dr. Amanda Griffin says there is no shortage of vaccines.
You can protect yourself and your community from the measles by being sure that you're vaccinated. The good news is we don't have any shortage of the vaccine at this point. There are lots of doctors' offices that have the vaccine, pharmacies, the health department. So we haven't seen any shortages at this point.
Griffin says if you're sick, stay home, and if you have to travel somewhere that is having a measles outbreak, the best way to protect yourself is getting vaccinated.
If you're vaccinated, you have a high level of protection from getting the measles. Also, staying away from sick people is important as well. Now, if you think you've been exposed to someone with the measles and haven't been vaccinated, we do recommend you get the vaccine within 72 hours of being exposed.
Griffin say if you suspect you have measles, contact your healthcare provider and health department before going into your appointment so they can make proper accommodations, as measles are highly contagious and can stay in the air up to 2 hours after an infected individual has left that space. For more information on how to prevent measles, head over to our website, myhighplains.com. 1 year ago, hundreds of people were unaware their lives would dramatically change.
The wealth that was stolen from us from this fire, it's over $1 billion in 2 counties.
Coming up, a look at how the recovery process from those devastating wildfires has been. Over 1 million acres burned across the High Plains during historical wildfires seen last year. The first people at the scene, firefighters. But many of the communities affected by the wildfires have a volunteer-based fire department, which means a smaller crew. Politics Today's Princess Bryant speaks with local fire departments about their contribution to keeping their communities safe.
As the wildfires burned across many communities in the area, it was all hands on deck for local fire departments, many of which are working on a smaller crew like Frisch Volunteer Fire Department.
We have 28 active members on the department, volunteers. During the Windy Deuce, unfortunately, it come through and went through half of our town. Started on one end, went to the other.
As the Windy Deuce fire burned through the community, all the volunteers of the department were out protecting their community while also sacrificing lots.
A lot of volunteers sacrifice time with their family and even working, even making money. I mean, nobody gets paid here, so it was they did a lot of sacrifice and a lot of not sleeping and trying to protect the community.
While Frisch Volunteer Fire Department were fighting the Windy Deuce fire, another all-volunteer based fire department was fighting a wildfire that will go down as one of the largest in Texas history.
On the eastern side of the Texas Panhandle, we have what we call the Sweetwater Creek Firefighters Association. Anytime we have a large fire like that, we start putting the call out, and they'll come help us on mutual aid. And that way we got a much larger fire department.
These 2 volunteer-based fire departments were hard at work protecting the community they serve, but they were not doing it alone, with many fire departments from across the state coming to help assist.
We were initially called out on the 27th of February last year to assist down around the area of Little Force. On the 28th, it started out pretty early that morning when we went north up into Roberts County to assist some units up there on the Smokehouse Creek fire.
While assisting during the Grapevine wildfire, 2 Pampa Fire Department firemen were injured.
They were actually actively defending a home and a business that was in the direct path of rapidly approaching flame front. We learned a lot of lessons about maintaining situational awareness in those moments because they did find themselves overrun during the course of that incident. Nothing significantly life-threatening or anything like that, some minor burns. They have fully recovered.
If you want more information on the fire departments and how they are working to rebuild after the wildfires and the strategies that they learned, this story continues for you at myhighplains.com. We'll wrap up things right after this quick break. Don't go anywhere. Well, that wraps things up for us this morning on Politics Today. Remember that you can see our full interviews with the mayor and Americans United over on our website. We also have a full list of the candidates who you will see on the ballot for Amarillo City Council in May. We have continuing coverage of all of those stories and more on our website, myhighplains.com. We certainly appreciate you spending some time with us on this Sunday morning. You've got a little bit of time left, so go enjoy what's left of this weekend, and we will see you next week.